Good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully, everyone's doing good today. I see a Crosswind Crozier, CP the Brick, and Tataimo and Bacon and Tuna. Hopefully, you guys can hear me just fine. I have been gone for the last 2 weeks because I got COVID. I got COVID and I just didn't have a voice at all to like talk or like anything. Every time I tried to talk, I could probably like croak a bit and then start coughing. It just wasn't a good idea. So I figured I'd take 2 weeks off just to recuperate, and not quite 100% yet. I'm probably like 90. So since today I will be soldering, I'm gonna wear a mask in addition to my fume extractor just to further protect myself. But yeah, I'm probably like 85, 90% or so. So yeah, getting better, but still not 100% there. And yeah, I Crosswind, I still have those PC issues, right? So, right when I was trying to get them solved, I got hit by COVID. So, when it rains, it pours, right? Let's talk about what we're doing today. As you guys can see from the stream title, I am building an Iron 165. So since I'm building an Iron 165, I figured I'd also use an Iron 165. This is my R1. This one's built with a brass plate, DK Oni switches, and topped with GMK Oblivion. Differences between the R1 and the R2. I think the biggest, most notable difference is the weight right there. This one's an actual solid weight, whereas the R2 is more like a plate of sorts. One more interesting thing about this, it didn't quite work 100%, but I have a Bakaneko PCB in this guy right here. Right, I did have to loosen up the screws so it would fit, so if you want to do something like this, use at your own discretion. This is the customer's R2 right here. So same color as mine, but with a couple differences, right? It's got, like I said, the weight is just a plate. I think this is like aluminum. So yeah, definitely not as heavy as my R1. Noticed that as soon as I picked up the board, actually. I did pre-build the board a little bit. I put on all of the gaskets already. See that? All the gaskets are on, along with the daughter board right here. Yeah, I also, just because I was a bit worried that soldering would make my condition worse, so I split it up in two. So this board is actually already half soldered. So we'll just be doing half the soldering during the stream. This guy's going to be using a POM plate with Red Jacket linears, and let's see, what else can I say? Durock V2 stabs, no foam whatsoever. I did notice though that a difference between the R2 PCB and mine, that the R2 PCB has flex cuts. So looking forward to see how this guy will feel. This customer is going to be using GMK Demon Sword without the accent, so it's just blue and white. Right, let's turn this on. Turn on fume extractor, so I apologize for the noise. And I will be using a mask just to further protect me from any solder smoke. But here, let me turn up the background music. Hopefully that's enough to cover the fume extractor. Which one would I prefer, angle or space 80? Aesthetics wise, I'd say the angle. Typing wise and sound, the space 80. There we go. we go. I think I'm done. Let me just examine. Did I do a good job with the soldering? Did I miss anything here? All good. All good. Hooray! That didn't take too long. But it's been 15 minutes. Awesome. Good stuff. Right. No more fume extractor. I can lower the music back down. There we go. Hooray. So that's interesting. I don't remember the R1 cable being this long. Well, this is good. Baka PCB fits on R2. No idea. Haven't tried. I know it kind of fits on the R1. You have to loosen all the screws though. So use at your own risk. That's very odd. I think there's something wrong with the cable here. What switches? These are Red Jacket switches. Oh, Ishiro, so you did run the build command. Huh. Huh. Yeah, there seems to be something wrong with the socket. It's very odd. Man. I have like the perfect Tagalog phrase for what I'm experiencing right now, but I can't express it in like English. For those of you who can understand Tagalog on my stream, nadoduling ako. Kind of means like you're it's like you're having trouble seeing, but I can't figure out the exact English phrase for it. There we go. Everything works now. Perfect. Yeah, good thing these JST pins are relatively robust. So you can easily tweak them a bit. There we go. Everything's good. Everything's good. Alright, I can lower the brightness again. There we go. Let's see, let me just check my face cam. Yep. Yep, that looks good. There we go. Okay. Here, let's clean it up a bit. Let's clean it up a bit, and we should be good. There we go. Iron 165 black. No, this is the gray one. Though I do notice that I think I don't think it's the same shade of gray as the R1. Alright, so just to make sure everything still works. Yep, everything still works. Extra money. Hey, I bought mine during the group buy phase. Oh, that sounds pretty good. You know what? I never actually looked at what what Red Jacket linears were. Red Jacket linears are nylon top, nylon bottom, two-stage spring, manufactured by Aflion. Let's put on the rest of GMK Demon Sword. Nylon housing, long stem. Aether. So is it Iron 165 R1 versus R2 today? No, not really. This is just a regular customer build. I just happened to pull out my R1 just because I've got an iron. There we go. There we go. Wow, that is light. That's a lot lighter than I'm used to when we're talking about irons. And yeah, check it out, guys. GMK Demon Sword on the gray Iron 165. Looks pretty good. Though I think that something like Oblivion would look better on this. Yeah, so for my Iron 165 R2 purchase, I'm getting a carbon fiber plate to replace the brass plate that I've got on that, along with the flex cut PCB. Yeah, I've always felt that my R1 was a little too stiff for my liking. Carbon fiber plate is stiff too. It is not as stiff as brass. It's about the same stiffness as an aluminum plate, but definitely not as flexy as the POM plate in this. Alright guys, this is Iron 165 R2 with POM plate, Red Jacket linears, Duroc V2 stabilizers, and GMK Demon Sword. Let's do the typing test. It's not as deep as I was expecting. I was actually expecting it to be a whole lot deeper. In terms of typing, it's also stiffer than what I was expecting. So it's still flexier than my brass plate here. But I was kind of expecting a little more, especially with the flex cuts on the PCB. It's also pretty muted, right? You guys can hear that, right? Was not expecting it to sound this muted, and keep in mind, it doesn't have any, like, foam in it either. Like, the mods sound great, but the alphas are a little bit... I feel like it's missing something. it feels good, but I think I was expecting a little too much from the board. Here, let's do another typing test. I'm gonna say actually that I still prefer this build more. This build's with the DK Oni switches and a brass plate. With the GMK keycaps as well. It's also a lot denser than the R2 since it's using like a actual brass weight. Now it says the brass R1 sounds better. Yeah, I would agree with you on that. Though I wouldn't Helicopter says, okay, in comparison, I like it less. Interesting. Yeah, to be honest with you guys, let's see, I've built like five Iron 165s, and there's only really one that I really liked. There we go, yeah. POM plate and black inks. That's the one that I like the most. Here, let's see if I can link it to you guys. One of my first streams. Here, this is the one that I like the most. This one's okay. Like, I'm not terribly impressed with it, but I'm also not disappointed, you know? You know, it says, people get the Iron 165 mostly for the aesthetics. True. Typing feel if they prefer a stiff board. Yeah, it's not been the best sounding and best typing board. I think a good sounding board would probably be like a Vega and all that. Earlier someone did ask for R2 and R1 comparisons. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I actually like how light the R2 is. It's a lot more mobile. Like for someone like me who changes boards out a lot, this is a lot easier to take care of than this one. In terms of the build wasn't any different than the R1. R1 was pretty much, it had the gaskets in like the same spot. The R2 had more flex cuts, had flex cuts on the PCB, and I think the brass plate also had flex cuts, had more flex cuts too. So I was expecting this to be a little more flexy, a little, like, especially since when I was putting on keycaps, you can actually see it pushed down. So I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be really flexy. But when I typed on it, I was like, yeah, that's still stiff. I guess the Iron 165 is just a stiff feeling board. Helicopter says maybe it's a tactile type board, maybe. No, I can't actually remember typing on any tactile Iron 165, so it could be. Another thing, never experienced this on a PCB before, but this is the first PCB where the JST port on it had a bent pin. Like, I've built lots of boards that had daughter boards, but this is the first PCB that had a bent pin on the port. I doubt that happens very often. I just got bad luck, or I guess the customer had bad luck. Let's see, Crosswind says, not to diminish your good work, but I wish we had a more even proportion of Keep influencers that like tactiles versus linears. I can't even name one that does. Well, that's the thing, you know, the longer you stay in this hobby, I feel like I'm not saying this is a hard rule, but I've noticed people who've stayed in this hobby for a long time always end up at linears. You know, like I was a tactile user for 3 years, loved tactiles, and then I tried linears and I was like, hey, I really like this. For me, I think it took me that long because it wasn't until maybe like 2017, 2018 when good linears used to come out. Like back then, 2017-ish, the best linears we had was like Telios, and it's like, okay, well, Telios are expensive and they're not exactly all that great, right? Once Gateron started making a bunch of stuff, JWK came in, TechC came in, it was just like, oh man. So you're hoping to get to the linear phase. You don't need to get to the linear phase. I'm just saying that this was an observation that I noticed. A lot of longtime people in this hobby are now linear users. If the community sticks with the MX type switch, the Cherry MX switch was actually built to be a linear switch. So which is why I think that's the reason why a lot of MX type switches tend to be really good when they're linear. But yeah, like I said, this was going to be a short stream. We're about an hour in, and I'm already done. Already did a typing test and all that. But yeah, thanks guys for joining in. My next stream is going to be tomorrow evening. Like, I'm not going to cover 2 weeks worth of group buy news. I'm still going to cover it for this following week. I figure all the stuff that I missed, you know, you guys can always just look it up yourselves. Tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. we will resume our regular programming. Hopefully I'll be even better tomorrow, considering I'll be drinking more water, taking more medicine. So hopefully I'll be even better tomorrow. But tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. PDT, we'll be covering the weekly group buy news. So tune in then if you guys want to know what's happening this week. All right, guys. Thanks for joining in. Glad you guys liked my build of the Iron 165. See you guys tomorrow. Bye, everyone.